Okay, hello, welcome everyone. Welcome, welcome. Come on in. I am so excited. It's just noon on the dot, so we'll give folks just another 30 seconds or so before we fully jump in, but so thrilled to have you all here. This has been a great summit so far, day two, and today we brought back one of our biggest hits from our very first session, my very dear friend, Brandon Clark. Um, Brandon is the founder and driving force behind No Dreams Deferred. He's a C-suite talent professional leveraging more than 15 years of experience and an exceptional national network for his clients. He excels at forging connections and navigating the discomfort of change. I can attest to that over the many years we have known each other. And his work is grounded in education, anti-racism, leadership, and talent strategy. So I'm thrilled to have Brandon back. Last year, he presented on networking like a natural. He's updated that this year. But I am not exaggerating when I say that I think about what I learned from Brandon at least once a week, and I put it into practice, and it has really changed how I am able to, as like a nerdy little introvert, how I am able to connect with people um, authentically and in a lower pressure way than I was approaching it before. So, Brandon, with that, I'm going to turn it over to you and just let me know how you want to cue the slides.
Will do. Thank you so much, Olivia. And good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to see some familiar faces. Hello, hello. And some new faces. I'm really excited to be here with you all today at Thrive Summit. And I hope you're planning on taking advantage of not just this session, but some of the other amazing sessions happening this week. I see Brittany is on with us and she is presenting later this afternoon. And I'm really excited for her session and have found a lot of value from my time with Brittany as well. Today we're talking about networking, right? And networking is such a key part of building relationships and growing your business. But I know that for a lot of us, it doesn't always feel easy or natural. And so my goal today is to help you think a little bit differently about networking. I want you to see it like less as a task and more as an opportunity to show up with authenticity, with clarity, and a presence that really naturally draws people in. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. So that's me. Hello. I'm Brandon. I'm the founder of No Dreams Deferred. My career began in schools and youth-facing programs. So networking wasn't really something that I thought a lot about at first, right? You don't network when you're working with 5-year-olds. Oh, yeah, I guess you could, but you don't think of networking when you're thinking of working with 5-year-olds. And that changed when the school network that I was working with asked me to attend a career fair to talk to potential teachers. I had no idea what to expect, and I was a little nervous, but the recruiter told me just be yourself, share your story, and get people excited about our work. And her advice made all the difference. That day was a like tremendous success. I had a lot of fun, and I discovered that networking could be as simple as having genuine conversations about the work that I love. Fast forward a couple of years, and someone I met at that career fair who never ended up working with us ended up crossing paths with me again when we were in New York City. They told me that our conversation stuck with them because I was authentic and it was meaningful. And that experience really helped me see how powerful like, a genuine connection can be, even when the results aren't immediate. And it also showed me something important that when you show up with curiosity and authenticity, people feel it and they're drawn to it. And so that's what kind of networking is in essence. Since then, I've spent years in roles where networking has been at the core of my work, from recruiting teachers and principals to coaching to leading teams. And if I'm being like truly honest, it probably took me like a year or two to feeling like I'm out of place to feeling like I'm doing it more naturally. But along the way, I picked up some strategies and insights that I'm really excited to share with you all today. And my hope is to really like shorten your own learning curve so that networking can feel less like a task or activity and more like an opportunity to genuinely connect with interesting people. I'm still learning a lot and I learn every day. And I know you all have valuable insights as well. And so I look forward to hearing from you throughout the session about what works and what doesn't work. But before we get started, I wanted to ask a few questions just to get a sense of who's here with us in this virtual room, how folks are feeling about the work coming into our session today. So if you could just drop into the chat your name, where you're joining us from, your business name, and your website if you have one. and then we will move on.
And while people do that, I will pipe in, just like in my session on Monday. For those of you who are here live, I will share this chat with these live attendees so that you can reach out afterwards because you already have a great foundation for connection. You might as well carry that forward. So I will be sending all of this information around um, later today or tomorrow as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Olivia. And hello, Brittany. Nice to see you again. And Lucia and Leah in Madison, Florida. Hey, welcome. And Meredith from Charlotte. Hey. And just in a word or two or three, if you could just describe how you feel about networking. And I'm just trying to get a sense of like what feelings people are bringing to this room right now. Drop your words in the chat. Thank you, Olivia. All right. We've got conflicted, excited. Great. That's great. Scared, excited, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. How else are we feeling? Wondering, forced, conflicted. Those are all great words, and I think, like, if I'm being honest, like things that I felt at one point or another as well. I've been very scared heading into it. I think that first one, yes, I wanted to hide at times. Heading to that first one, a little worried, a little bit like feeling like I'm a little bit of an imposter. Like, what do I have to say or share? And so we'll talk about that also. Oh, some other wondering, cautious. Um, I don't know if I don't know why it's not updating for you, Olivia. There you go. Awesome. Awesome. So, a wide range of emotions and feelings, which is completely natural, and normal. Let's go to the next slide. And the question is, what is your biggest challenge when it comes to networking? And if Mentimeter is giving you issues, you can also just drop it into the chat. You can see the options down below. You don't like self-promotion, you have a little bit of social anxiety or awkwardness, maybe a lack of time, you don't know what to say or where to begin, you feel like you have imposter syndrome or something else. Right, a mix of feelings, a mix of emotions, a mix of like worries or challenges, and that's normal. But by the end of the time today, I really hope you'll leave here feeling a little bit more confident, feel like you have some more tools in your belt, so that you're ready to network in a way that feels right for you. So you can go to the next slide, please, Olivia. We're going to talk about our agenda. So just talking about what we're going to be doing today. And for those of you who were here last year, some of this might seem familiar, and that's great. But we're going to talk about how to always be connecting and just making connections wherever they are. We're going to talk about making generous connections and how generosity can really fuel our networking practice. We're going to talk about connecting with clarity and curiosity. And then we'll have a little bit of time, just a little bit of time to practice in a very safe way. And then we'll close it out by talking about conference best practices. So I think when most of us think of networking, that's probably where our minds go is like that conference, the annual conference that I have to go to and what to do there. And so I have some tips that I think will be really helpful for you there. All right. So as I mentioned, when most people think about networking, and maybe you're in this boat as well, you picture like a conference room with people with name tags and holding coffees and kind of having like awkward conversations and not knowing how to get out of this conversation, maybe. But the truth is, networking happens everywhere. It happens on playgrounds and coffee shops, at schools. To me, it's really much more of a mindset than an activity, right? It's about getting to know people, understanding their needs, understanding their superpowers, and building a relationship that will evolve and grow over time. When I launched my consulting business, it was really built on relationships that I had nurtured long before I had started my business. I had spent years building relationship with folks, understanding their passions, the types of problems they encounter, long before I established my LLC. So as a result of that, when I was ready to go live, I was really starting from a strong base of potential clients, folks who I knew well and who knew me well. Some of those conversations come back years later in unexpected ways. So a chance encounter at a coffee shop or a casual chat on the playground might not turn into an immediate opportunity, but they do often come around when the time is right. And I want to note that there's like this common misconception that when you network or in order to network effectively, you really have to talk someone's ear off or constantly sell yourself. But I want to assure you that that's not true at all. And in fact, some of the best networking conversations I've had are the ones where I'm doing much more listening than talking. I learned so much from others about their work, about their passions, simply by being curious and asking thoughtful questions. So that's kind of the first frame that I want you. It's just like not think of it as like this one discrete thing that you have to do at a conference or when you're at the, waiting for a coffee. It's something that just hopefully can start to come more naturally to you over time if you just remain curious and kind of always think of networking as like an opportunity to learn more about other people. Next slide, please. This one's probably my favorite piece here is about the contribution, right? So one of the most powerful networking moves isn't really about what you can get, it's what you can give. So making introductions or sharing resources really shows that you're invested in other people's success, and it helps build and strengthen your network in ways that you really can't imagine. And like honestly, I'd have trouble articulating how this has impacted me, but it's been significant. When you make introductions or share resources, people remember your generosity, and that generosity often multiplies. There have been times when I've connected two people simply because I thought they'd have a great conversation. Like, ooh, you're a really great smart person, and you're a really great smart person. Like, I think you guys would really hit it off. I wasn't expecting anything in return. I just wanted to facilitate something meaningful for them. And what's amazed me is that over the years, how often those connections come back, sometimes years later, to create unexpected opportunities, not just for them, but for me as well. And then when you become known as a connector, right, or people start to see you as a connector, they really see you as someone who adds value, and that reputation kind of strengthens your network over time. And I think it's like this cyclical process. So let's take a moment to think back, to think about, excuse me, your own network. Are there people in your circle who you think should meet each other? Maybe two people who share similar interests. They could collaborate or simply would enjoy each other's company. I must say, I love networking. I love making connections. I think I'm a terrible matchmaker. So I don't think these skills are exactly like there's not a big overlap to them apparently, but introductions, even small introductions, can make a big impact. So what I would like everyone to do is just take a few minutes now to think about your network. Think about people you know who should know each other. Maybe it's a coworker and a friend who are working on similar things. Maybe it's two colleagues that you know from different organizations who could benefit from sharing insights. Write down the names of those people and then try and think about a time that you might be able to make those introductions, either virtually or in person. Does anyone have an introduction in mind that they've been meaning to make or thinking about making, or anyone that popped to mind immediately? Feel free to unmute and just speak.
Hi there.
Hi.
We live in a really small town in northern Florida, and we are a 4-H family. I don't know if you know of 4-H. It's I don't even know how to describe 4-H, but it's like a youth program for kids to get involved in extracurricular clubs, and it's very common in rural communities. And then we, as a business, sponsored a bike race in a neighboring county who the money that they were raising was to benefit another 4-H. And I tried to connect that business with our 4-H extension officer and thought they would be a great match. And what I found was that they were in competition with each other. So I guess my question is, I love connecting people, but if you want to answer this now, what do you recommend when you do connect people when it's like a bad connection because those people in and of themselves are really not open to
Hmm.
connect?
Interesting. You know what? That's interesting. And I'm surprised when you said that, I was like, oh my God, like I'm surprised it hasn't happened to me yet. I mean, I think if you're genuine and honest, right, like you really can't go wrong. You're just like, oh, sorry, like I didn't realize that you're in competition with one another. Um, and I think, maybe I'm kind of in the minority opinion here, but I think that you can have value from speaking with your competitors also, right? I think that there are probably shared concerns that they have, and if it's a competition over money and fundraising, my guess is that their efforts would probably be better together than separate, and maybe that there's some work there that they can do. But if they're not open to that, like you really can't force it.
Yeah.
Anyone have any other connections that they're trying to make or wanting to make or that they've made recently?
I just scrolled through my phone and realized a friend of mine, we're in the DC area. She is like so many folks between jobs at the moment. And just quickly scrolled through my contacts. And I don't know of anybody around here who's hiring who would be a good fit, but I know people who are in adjacent industries. And so just connecting them for coffee, because who knows who they know and what the ripple effect might be. And they might also just enjoy each other. Because again, you said like smart, great people. Yes. Why don't I
Yes.
connect you for coffee?
Absolutely. And yeah, that's kind of was a point that I was going to thank you, Olivia. I didn't even share my notes with you, but that was kind of what I was going to close it up with. Like, number one, these introductions don't have to be super formal or complicated, right? A simple note, like, I think you two would have a great conversation, can really set the stage. I do tend to like, if you've been on the receiving end of one of my e-intros ever, I love like giving people their flowers in those and telling people exactly why I'm connecting them. So, I have this great friend who is, a really talented musician and artist, and I'm going to give them all those flowers when I'm connecting them with someone else, even if we're not talking about music, right? But just making those connections and being really generous, and giving people their flowers while they're still here. And the second point, which Olivia just mentioned, is like you don't have to have the end game in mind, right? You don't have to know what the end result's going to be. And I think some of that is where, I try to control things originally early in my career, where it's like, well, if I don't know if they're hiring, why would I make that introduction? Sometimes you don't know what you don't know, right? Oftentimes we don't know what we don't know. And so sometimes just making the introduction and allow kind of two great people to connect and see what comes of it. And it could be that the two people you connect, like then there's another connection that happens because of that, that then leads to something. So I would just encourage you all to just like be generous with those connections. Next slide, please. All right. So authentic networking, gosh. Um, I, this is like loaded, and I feel like authenticity is kind of like a cool word now. It's like the thing to be authentic and true, which is great. I think more people should be authentic. But I truly believe that authenticity is your superpower when it comes to networking. I think people are naturally drawn to people who are genuine, people with genuine curiosity, people who are clear about themselves. And if you're unsure about how to talk about what you do or how to like do these networking conversations, right? Start with why you do it. Sharing your passion and what excites you about your work makes you feel relatable, it makes you feel memorable, and it connects you with people on a deeper level. So, we're going to do a little practice here. I would love for you to take a few moments to think about your why. So, yes, we all know the work that we do, but why? Like, what's the deeper purpose or motivation behind your work? And then think about your what, right? Like, what's the practical way that you bring that purpose to life? And I'll share an example for me, which is one that I've workshopped and actually have worked with Brittany on this, who's helped me kind of get this into a kind of language that I feel really great about. But I'll share my example just so you can get a sense of how I like where you could be. Your version is not going to sound like this because you don't have Brittany to help you right now. And this is something that has evolved over time, but just to give you a sense of like what this could sound like. So when I'm talking about No Dreams Deferred, No Dreams Deferred is a mission-based consultancy rooted in the belief that no dream should be deferred. We help people and organizations navigate pivotal moments so that they can fully step into who they're meant to be. We work with leaders, we work with artists, athletes, and nonprofit teams at the cusp of transformation. They have a vision and they know that they need to do things differently to get there, and that's where we step in. We coach leaders through change, recruit great people, and design policies and programs that fit their future. So that's kind of my what and my why, right? We believe that no dream should be deferred, right? And what do we do? How do we do that? Um, we, coach, we recruit, we design programs and policies, right? So that's like the simple version of it. So I would love for everyone to just take a couple of minutes to jot down your why and your what. Finish writing, typing, whatever you're doing. It doesn't have to be perfect, just a draft. Okay. All right. So in a minute, you're going to jump into your rooms and you're just going to take turns sharing your why and your what with the group. Um, and for the people who are in the group, there should be groups, it should be groups of three, or three people in each room. You will. just take a chance, like, or take a practice turn asking like really curious questions, open-ended questions that really get the person talking about their why. Welcome back, everyone. Before we move on, I'm just curious, like, how did that feel for you all? How was it? How did it feel talking about your why? How did it feel like hearing people kind of work through it? And it couldn't have been 6 minutes. I think it was. I'm sorry. But yeah, talk to me about it. That's good. That's a good thing. I'm happy you're having a good conversation, but let's hear it. Anyone want to come off mute and talk to us?
Hi, this is Brittany. I loved my session, which I also loved my session last year, and I remember feeling last year like, oh, Brandon must have known who was going to be in this session and like put us together on purpose because he, like making those generous connections. And I asked you afterwards, and you were like, no, I didn't do that. I didn't know who was going to be there. I didn't do that. And I feel like almost the same this year. And maybe that's just, a testament to like the people who are participating in this Thrive Summit. But I think also, um, I remember Amanda talking yesterday about like the specific is universal. And I think like when I'm able to hear about like the specific things that people went through or the specifics of their why, I'm almost always able to find connections to what I do. Um, and that I feel like that was like a helpful takeaway for me.
Thank you, Brittany. It was a very generous reflection that you shared with us. Thank you for that. Yeah, I agree. I think that like whenever you're hearing about someone why, I think there's just something about it that like you connect to, right? You can hear like yourself in them, even if their why is completely different than yours, right? So I do think there is some like something there. There's some magic there. Anyone else want to share? All right, I won't force it. But I just want
Can
to,
I jump in with a question?
sure.
I would love if you felt like your response, like your introduction, your why and your how was really polished and like the way you would want it, drop a one. And if you feel like
Hmm,
it wasn't perfect, drop a two. All
great question. Thank you.
right, seeing some ones, some twos. And now to mix it up and carry through, if you felt like the person you were listening to gave a compelling introduction, right? Like that stirred something in you, drop a three. And if they didn't, drop a four. I'm not really worried about this, right? Like it doesn't have to be perfect. It can be muddled, but if it's coming from the heart, it's going to be effective and help foster that connection.
Oh, thank you for making that point, Olivia. That's amazing. And yeah, such a good point. And just remember, right? Like networking isn't about perfecting an elevator pitch, right? It's not about perfecting. It's not about wordsmithing. The version I gave to you today, if I said it to you again in 5 minutes, I would say something slightly different. It's about meaningful conversations, right? And when you approach this process of networking with curiosity and with generosity, the connections you build will be more natural and longer lasting. I think just continue practicing your why, right? Notice how clarity and curiosity kind of fuel the conversations. When you listen deeply and ask thoughtful questions and create space for real connection. And that's what people are going to remember. And so just one more tip, right, as you're going through and you're going to be out in the real world networking, right? Really try so many times when we're out in the world and we're speaking with someone, we're so focused on like our response, right? We're like, you're talking to me, but I'm thinking about like how I'm gonna say that, ooh, I'm gonna say that, ooh, I'm gonna say that. There will be time for you to speak and share, like that will come in the conversation naturally. But when someone's speaking with you, when you're networking, give them the gift of your time and your attention, right? People don't feel that often. We're in a world where people have, these things up with them or around all the time, and they're kind of, in between conversations or meetings. So if you're there and you're focused and you're present, and you're thinking deeply about what you're learning about this person and thinking about, oh, what follow-up question do I want to ask to get you to go deeper on that? You said this really cool line at the beginning, but like, what more can you give me there? Can you go to the next slide, actually? Yeah. So these are some sample open-ended questions, questions that like you can use, and these are like there are thousands of the infinite number of these, right? Um, but what sparked your passion for your current work, right? Imagine the kind of response you're going to get from someone if you ask that type of question. Or what's the most rewarding part of what you do, right? You're going to get something really juicy and good from that. So you can like take these, right? And you can also just spend some time thinking of these. These are questions that will work kind of universally, right? Wherever you are, whoever you're talking to, like most of these questions will work. And so just figure out what are the two or three that you want to keep in your back pocket, that you want to have, that you want to ask over and over again. I love asking people how they got to where they are. Like, how did you land there? How did you land on that? Is that what you're most passionate about? Sometimes people tell you about their work, right? Well, I'm the vice president of development at this company and I'm doing this and this. And like, oh, is that your biggest passion? Actually, no, I love to make music, right? And it's like, oh, okay, like let's talk about that. So there are so many ways to go with this, and I think if you're present, if you're there, if you stay curious, I think you'll get a lot out of this experience, and it will feel less like stressful and less like like I'm putting on, some sort of, um, you know, facade, right, or some sort of mask. Like the goal is to take the mask off, not to put the mask on. Um, and networking, it really doesn't have to feel forced or awkward. It's about being yourself. It's about staying curious and always looking for ways to give. And so, um, before we do that, actually, let's go to the next slide. I think we're going to talk about the conferences. Yes. Okay. So at the end of this, Olivia, I believe will send out some materials. Yes. So this handout will be one of them. Um, but this is, I want to close by talking about what most people associate with networking, which is conferences, right? We talked about that at the beginning of like, the name tags and the coffees and the decent food and the room temperatures that are kind of all over the place, right? All those things that go into conference life. Um, but whether in person or virtual, these events often offer like really incredible opportunities to connect. But they often also require a lot of effort and energy. And so taking care of yourself is key. And so to maintain your presence and your energy at the conference, you really have to manage your energy and be thoughtful about it. I think, the title of this was about being magnetic, but that fades, right? When you're exhausted, you're distracted, you're overwhelmed, overstimulated. So think about how you can stay clear, curious, and intentional so that your presence really draws people in throughout the time. So whenever I sign up, these are just some tips that I do. I go to a lot of conferences, not so much anymore, but I used to get probably like two or three a year is probably my current rhythm. And whenever I sign up for a conference, I spend a lot of time on the front end planning how I want to make the most of it while staying true to myself and my needs. So I think through things like travel logistics, right? Does it make sense for me? Let's say the conference starts at 4 o'clock. Should I arrive early? Should I arrive the night before? Right? Or should I maybe stay a little bit later to follow up on some things, right? So thinking about how you're traveling, I'm already going to be gone from my family. That's kind of how I think about it. Like, what's the way that I can make sure that this time away from them is really well spent? And sometimes that means like after the conference, I'm not going to take the flight that leaves at 4. I'm going to take the flight that leaves at 8 because I'm not going to see my kids anyway. So I might as well like have an easier trip to the airport. Prioritizing sessions, right? What are the sessions or things that I really can't miss, right? And when are those times when I can step away and take a break? I often love to take a walk in the city or town that I'm in to like see the city, get outside of the hotel. And sometimes you're in those conferences and you feel like you go to your room, the conference room, conference room, conference. You can leave. You're an adult, you're a grown up. You can walk outside, you can go grab coffee from across the street, you can walk to a park, go for a jog. But those are the things that I do to make sure that I'm fully charged and ready once I step into that room and I can be present. Again, just like being cognizant of your battery, right? Knowing when I need to charge my battery. Like I know that I can't do 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. without stopping. So I know that there's going to be a time in there when I'm going to step away, go up to my room, maybe take a nap, read a book, do something that's not, people focused. And for virtual environments, I would say it's a, a little different, but the opportunities to connect are very much still there, right? You want to engage actively, like use the chat feature to ask questions, connect with people. Remember who you're talking to. Reach out to people directly, direct message them, right? Send them an email, follow up on LinkedIn. Don't be afraid to use those participant lists to reach out and make connections and just introduce yourself. The time and space for casual interactions can be limited in this situation, but that doesn't mean that you can't make meaningful connections here. And as Brittany shared, she's still speaking with someone that she met in this session last year. I hope that is true for you again this year, Brittany, and I hope that's true for the rest of you as well. Next slide, I think is our final one. It's Q&A, right? Yeah. So we'd love to, open up for questions. I know this ends at 45, so not a ton of time, but I can be available if people need more time. But just want to close by saying again, it doesn't feel forced or awkward, right? This is about being yourself, staying curious, and always looking for ways to give. And if you can do those things, I think you're going to be in pretty good shape. And as you leave this session, I would love for you to make one commitment to yourself, and this is just a personal commitment. You don't have to share it with me or the chat or anyone else. But what's one step you'll take this week to connect with someone new or follow up with someone that you've already met? So maybe you met someone last year at a conference and you never followed up with them. Maybe you have someone who's been on your mind, who you've been thinking about, throughout the past couple of weeks, and you haven't reached out to them. Who's someone you can reach out to connect with? Networking is similar to planting seeds, right? It's like, I'm not a very good gardener, but I do know that it takes time, right? You plant the seed and you don't see the result right away. Some of these connections may, but others may take years. But every connection has value. And so I hope that you all go out there and take some time to nurture your garden of relationships and continue to do the great work that you all do. And please stay connected with me, say hello, connect with me on LinkedIn, and let's find some time to connect. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, I see some
Yeah.
questions.
Question
Sorry.
from Deep.
Yes.
Any tips on networking for introverts? It's easy to stay in the comfort zone around people you are comfortable with. Even managing existing connections gets exhausting at times. And I'm going to let you answer, but I also have to share from last year on your conference tips. You talk about attire and don't be afraid to be noticed. So
Yes.
again,
Yeah.
as an awkward introvert, when I went to this huge conference last December, I bought a bright pink suit and a sequined skirt. And I was like, I don't have to choose to go up to people. People will come up to me and comment on what I'm wearing, which is super uncomfortable for me, but less uncomfortable than trying to start the conversation by going up to them. So that was like a baby step way for me as an awkward introvert to do it in that environment. But I know you have tips for just in general too.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think that's a great one. I do what I wear. I try and I go for comfort is what I do when I go to conferences. I want to go I want to feel myself, right? And then I also try and do something that has a little pizzazz. I have shoes that I usually go with at conference. I usually wear cool sneakers. And that's the same way that Olivia was talking about. Usually, it tends to be a conversation starter. People come up to you and comment on them. In terms of introvert, I am not an introvert. Surprise, but I would say just know yourself, right? And it's okay. Like for introverts, I would imagine that it's draining and exhausting when you're out talking to people, and that's okay. How much time is in your battery, right? Do you have 30 minutes? All right, if you have 30 minutes, go do it for 30 minutes and then figure out what you need to recharge and what is your recharge. For some people, it's, going on a walk or going for a run, working out or reading, getting some tea or coffee, like whatever your things are to recharge, just knowing what those are and using those. And if you're at a conference and you're like, I need to recharge multiple times throughout the day in order to be my best, like that's okay. And then I think what's the second part? It's easy to stay in comfort zone around people you're comfortable with, but managing existing connections gets exhausting. I hear that, and I would just encourage you. Olivia is an introvert, so I would say there are other introverts on the call who you can talk to, might give you some better tips. But
Right.
I think for introverts and extroverts, energy management is really important.
That's so true. I mean, I'll explain a bit where I'm coming from. So, I don't have an intention of networking from a business perspective. Like, I don't want any clients or any more work coming to me. I go to a 9 to 5 job, and that's the typical, setup. But then again, I find there are people who want a piece of your time, and then just managing those existing relationship gets to a point where you wouldn't even think of walking up to a stranger and saying hello, or which team do you work for, what do you do. There are avenues to connect with people across the geography, but then again, you wouldn't feel the urge or the need to do it unless there is a specific motivation behind it. So there are times I feel I see people around me succeeding who are able to connect with people, connect ideas, do all of that. But somewhere I'm like, that's what my job requires. That's like a category one for me, but somehow it doesn't come naturally. So it's a real struggle.
I hear you. I hear you. And I mean, knowing very little about your situation, my encouragement to you is like start small. I think you sometimes you see other people doing things and maybe you think like you have to have this huge, robust network, but like maybe it is just nurturing the relationship that you already have, right? And like building on those. Maybe there are some existing relationships that do, could use some cultivation, right? It's like, oh, I know this person, I feel comfortable with them, but we can go deeper, right? Like maybe starting there, and not feeling like the external pressure to do something that, feels uncomfortable. I'm
Thanks. Thank you.
No problem. I'm behind on these chats. Oh, thank you. Yes, yeah, it's okay to listen where you talk, ask good questions. People love talking about themselves also. So if you ask good questions and get someone going, like they're gonna feel good about you because they were able to talk about themselves and their passion. Any other questions?
Welcome off mute. Um, this is more just a curiosity of what it is that you do when you encounter these situations, but I'm always I'm always wanting to make those meaningful connections, and I've been in situations in which I'm met with like fully transactional response. And yeah, I'm just curious how you handle situations like that. And it's happened to me like in person or in virtual events. I know, yeah. Anyway, just
Yeah.
curious to hear your thoughts.
Yes. Okay. So, um, a couple of things. One, that's going to happen. And I think for me, when that happens to me, I'm like, I just note it. I'm like, oh, okay, noted. Like, that's kind of where this is, and that's fine. I think there's time for transactional relationships, right? And like, you, I wouldn't put too much more energy into that if it was clear that this person was like strictly on the transactional nature. I'm not gonna like spend time and energy to try and like dig deeper if that's not what they want or if I feel like that's not gonna get me anywhere. And just focus on people who do want to get deeper. There are people who are open and willing to connect. And just sometimes I think it's helpful actually to know that someone's transactional. It's like, okay, great. Like now I know. But for those who are, I think more that there are probably more of us who are not, and I would just continue to pursue those. All right. Well, thank you so much. I had a lot of fun presenting with you all. I could talk about this probably all day with you. So please feel free to reach out. Like I said, I'm on LinkedIn. You have my website. Would love to connect, have a virtual or in-person coffee at some point. If you're ever in the great state of Connecticut, look me up. Let's connect over some real coffee. But thank you, Olivia. Thank you for organizing this conference. It's been a pleasure. And I hope to see you all soon.
This was wonderful. Thank you, Brandon. Brittany is closing us out this afternoon in a little over an hour. She's talking about selfish goals. I am so excited for that. And then we've got more goodness coming your way tomorrow and Friday. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to everyone who caught the replay, and take very good care. We'll see you soon.